Welcome to the Jones Zone, a podcast by Darryl and JJ Jones.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Jones Zone. Thanks for tuning in today. Today's topic is going to be the real benefits of real estate investments. Our guest today is Walt Tamulinas. Walt has been a real estate investor for close to, 50 years?
Right.
Yeah, 50 years. So, okay, Walt, you're going to answer the first question is going to be the topic that's on a lot of people's mind. When is a good time to buy?
That's a really good question. And I have an answer for that because everybody wants to know, should I buy today? And it doesn't matter when you buy, interestingly enough. Everybody's trying to catch the top of the market or the bottom of the market. When you buy, you want to catch it at the bottom. And when you sell, you want to catch it at the top. And I believe I'm an expert real estate investor. And so I've never got the top and I've never got the bottom. And I've been lucky to catch close to the top or the bottom a couple of times. And so, I put a property on the market and the market starts to fade. It's like, oops, what happened? I didn't catch it. So even Warren Buffett said one time, he said, I don't get the top and I don't get the bottom. I just get the average over all these years. And so now is a good time to buy. And the reason why is it doesn't matter when you buy, Darryl. It does not matter when you buy. The only importance in real estate investing, whether you're living in the house or it's a rental property for you, the only thing that's important is when you sell. Now, is today a great market to sell in? You want to catch the top, baby? Now's the time. Now's the time. So I'm telling you, if you want to sell your real estate investment for the top dollar and get it overbid, today's the time you sell.
When inventory is low.
Right. And so does that mean the house is never going to go up? No. It means you're going to take the money and you're going to do something else with it. You're going to go back in and do something, do another investment. So everybody has different motivations, but the answer to the question is, when do I buy? You always buy. You continue to buy. It doesn't matter what the interest rates. It doesn't matter what the inventory. Continue to buy. And here's the reason why. I've been doing this since 1976, and I'll tell you lots of stories about, the values back then. Everything I see on the market now, I think it's overpriced because I have this frame of reference. I saw it, in 1976, what the prices were. I mean, we were buying homes, investment homes on our credit card, and so it was a different story. But if you look at the chart for real estate investment, they go up and down a little bit, they go up some more, they go down a little bit. But the chart goes like this. If you put a line through the ups and downs, there's never a line that goes down like this for a long period of time. Always in an upswing, and even though there are valleys in real estate investments. So it's when you sell that's important. And then we can talk about real estate as a short-term investment or long-term investment. Unfortunately, people tend to mix up investing in stocks and on Wall Street, like with real estate investments. And real estate can be a short-term investment. Today's market is so dynamic and the prices are so crazy high and people are overbidding them. You can actually buy a home and do a little work on it and maybe make a few bucks on it. And so that's the theory in real estate investment. If you go fast, or do you want to go far? If you go fast, in this case, you would go by yourself because there's not much money in a flip anymore.
Fast.
You can make a few bucks. That's fast.
Defined as a flip, more of a flip inside of 2 years.
Right.
Okay.
And far would be, I'm looking at it as a long-term investment, and I'm going to go with maybe more capital invested in it, and you can go with a group. You can go with a number of people. So, everybody knows the basic benefits of real estate ownership, and that is, first of all, pride of ownership. If you're going to live in the house, you get to entertain, you get to have your barbecues, you get to use the swimming pool, you're close to school, your neighbors. It's just pride of ownership, and that's a benefit that people forget. I know you need to have a roof over your head, but whether you're a renter or an owner, there's pride in being an owner, and so that's something that we miss as a basic benefit. There's a forced savings plan in a real estate investment, and that's called equity buildup. Every time you make a mortgage payment, part of it goes for interest and part of it goes for principal, which is the balance on the loan goes down. So can you spend that at the grocery store? No. I guess if you have a line of credit on the house, you could, but from a practical standpoint, it's a forced savings that's stuck in equity. And that's a good thing because if you save money, you save money, you put it in the bank. Oh, I'm going to save money until I buy a house. Ooh, I like that red shiny car. You're going to get a car instead, Ooh, I like that red shiny diamond. I'm going to get that. I'm going to get that jewelry. And so it has a tendency to slip out of the savings account, where in real estate, it's stuck. It's a forced savings plan. So principal reduction is a big one. And the last one is tax benefits. I think that's underrated in real estate investment. And at the end, I'll talk about rent, versus buying, and why it's actually cheaper to own real estate than it is to rent real estate. And the main reason why is because of that tax benefit. So there's great tax benefits in real estate. The interest on the mortgage that you pay is deductible against your ordinary income. The property tax that you pay is deductible against your ordinary income. And this has all got to be checked by your accountant because there are limitations on those deductions. But for the most part, it's all deductible. And so you got to take that into consideration. There's hidden benefits, though. And these are the ones I think are most important to talk about because real estate is the best hedge against inflation. Basically, if you take $100,000 in a savings account and take it out of the savings account and put it into a real estate investment, then you're controlling a larger savings account. So for you YouTube viewers, you can see that there's a $100,000 bank account versus a $500,000 real estate investment.
And for the non-YouTube viewers, you're not missing much. Walt didn't pass an art career to become a real estate investor.
The pile of money is larger. And so the concept of leverage is what I want to talk about. Real estate is the best hedge against inflation. And here's why. If you have a $100,000 savings account, what's happening with that savings account? Well, if you're lucky, the bank's going to pay a 3% interest. And at the end of the year, what happens with that interest? They add it to your income. And so the government gets some of that interest back, let's say 35%. So if you're lucky enough to get 3% interest on a $100,000 bank account, that's $3,000. And if you take 35% of that income tax and you pay it back to them, at the end of the year, your savings is only worth $1,950. So you made 1.9% return on that investment. Now, if you take the same $100,000 and you put it into a leveraged investment of real estate, are you controlling a $100,000 asset or are you controlling a $500,000 asset? So you're controlling a $500,000 asset. So what does inflation affect? Does inflation relate to the $100,000 you put down? No. Inflation relates to the $500,000 value that house is. So there's two things happening with the value of that home that aren't happening in a savings. One is inflation. Now, inflation means that $100,000 bank account is worth less every year because the dollar is worth less.
The purchasing power has gone down. So you would have had $100,000 of purchasing power. Now it's equivalent to $80,000 in purchasing power.
Not that much of a discount, but it's less because inflation is affected. Now, what has inflation done to the real estate value? It's made the property go from $500,000. Let's just say the same thing applies. 3% in the bank and 3% in the real estate investment. After 1 year, the real estate investment of $500,000 went up 3%. That's $15,000. And that $15,000 is tax-free. The government doesn't get their hands on that.
We want to stipulate that it's tax-free at that moment. There are things you want to talk to your accountant about. But
all this you got to check with your accountant on.
Yeah. But it is tax-free.
The next thing is that you get to write off the interest and the taxes on that property, which total about $41,000. And that's a tax savings. If one's in a 35% tax bracket, state and federal combined, that's $14,000, $14,350. You add that to the principal reduction, and you've got a benefit of $31,750. So what's your return on investment on that real estate investment now, this first year? It's substantial compared to, so what do you want at the end of the year? You want the $1,950 net on your savings account, which is diminished by inflation? Or do you want the $31,750 in 1 year on this real estate investment? Now, go out 10 years and see what happens. So the other thing that influences value is appreciation. Now, appreciation is different from inflation. Inflation is the cost of living. Appreciation is a function of supply and demand. And Darryl, you're seeing this market now. You got 30 listings at any one time, and you're seeing everybody swarming on these listings. And so that's appreciation. That is like it's supply and demand. There is no supply, and the demand is super high, even though there's high interest rates right now. No demand, high demand and no supply means it's going to push the value of the property up to a point where it's artificially inflated. So that over a period of time, even though it's not as radical as it is in today's market, that is called appreciation. So you got those two things working for your benefit, and that's the leverage. You got $100,000 in the bank, or you got a $500,000 real estate investment. which bank account do you really want to have? You want to have that real estate investment for sure. How do I buy in this market with high prices and high interest rates? I mean, I got a bid and, how do I get in? And so this market calls for extraordinary stuff. We've just got to think outside the box. And there has been recent legislation that allows all homeowners to add a guest house on their property. We call them ADUs.
In California. Yeah.
Right. And so you can add this guest house. That might be a way to improve your situation. So I understand it costs money to build the ADU, but you can put sweat equity into it, and maybe you could do it on your own. You do owner contractor, and then you have a renter, and the rent will help you make these mortgage payments, in this high rental, in this high interest rate environment. This is going to sound crazy. Buy, if you're a first-time buyer, buy with another couple.
I've had that happen a couple of years ago, and I had a great friend of mine from high school tell me that her two daughters are planning on doing that. They're both going to be getting married. One's married, one's getting married, and they plan on buying a house together for the exact same reasons. Everything's so high. The rates are so high, etc. But yeah,
why not?
Yeah.
Why not? I know that, you got to have two sides to the house and you got to share the refrigerator, but it's like, it's only temporary. It's not like I'm going to live with you for the rest of my life. We're not getting married and doing a long-term deal here. Maybe you could do it for 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, but get in. A story that is not on my list of stories to tell you. As a young man, my first real estate investment was with 3 other real estate agents in my office. There were these new homes called Broadmoors and Orange Park Acres, and I don't remember what the prices were. They were just this hot new thing. It was called a PUD, planned unit development, in an equestrian neighborhood with lakes and walks and trees, and it really looked cool, And we didn't know if people were going to accept this or not. So one of our partners moved into the property, and the other 3 people helped with the down payment and closing costs. So she lived there for a couple of years, and in a new home tract, there's artificial pricing in that the builder holds the prices and raises the prices in each development. And once the builder's out of there, then who knows what's going to happen to the price? The sky's the limit, and that's what happened in this case. I think we owned it for 2 or 3 years and made a really nice profit, probably doubled our money. Small investment, went with a small group of people, and so that's what today's real estate market calls for. How about this? Buy with your family, Maybe your folks are thinking about retiring. Buy with your family. Maybe you have a brother or sister you want to buy with, as you said. Buy with your family. Get your group together. Fractional ownership is a way into this market. And so the big objection you hear is, I don't have the down payment. I can't qualify. The interest rates are too high. Prices are too high. Okay, well, if you do fractional and you put everybody, get a bigger capitalization, get everybody put a little bit more money in, maybe you have 50 grand. But maybe you have a friend with 50 grand, and you got another friend with 20, and you got another friend with 15. Give them fractional ownership in the property. There are some hurdles to overcome with financing and qualifying, but if you have a good, strong qualifier or 2 or 3 or 4, then, it's possible to do this. But that's what this market calls for, is small groups buying a single family resident together. And then what do? How do you get out of this? You got all these people involved in this investment. How do you get out of it? Same way we did. I can remember the gal's name. Her last name was Morgan. She sold the house and bought another one with the profits, and we all got our share of the profits. So that's what happens. And you form a partnership agreement where you say, okay, when the property gets to X, we agree to refinance. When the property gets to X, we agree to sell. When the property gets to X, you're going to give me my principal reduction back, and I'll let my investment, whatever's left, ride. There's lots of options that you can do, for the future. So it's not worrying about that. And so you're saying, well, why are you telling me to do this? I'm telling you to do this because I've done it many, many, many times. I did it last year with an investment group and made really good money. And so, it gives you the power of OPM. That's other people's money. And we miss that. I don't have the down payment. Well, but you got friends that do. Your boss, your rich uncle, your grandma, your parents. And I'll tell you a story that's going to sound radical, but it's true because it was in my personal life. And you'll see the miracle of real estate investment. I had a mentor many years ago, his name Danny Santucci, and he talked about assets, income, and cash. And so income is taxable. Assets, for the most part in real estate, are not taxable.
Not yet.
Until you sell. Right, not yet. That's coming, right,
Oh,
Gavin? So assets, income, and cash. Assets create income, and that's what you want. And that's called passive income. That's the best kind of income. Really good, sophisticated investors saying passive income makes you lazy. And it really does, because you got to just go to the postal box and get your check out when the rent came, because
You're making money while you're sleeping.
these properties pay off after 30 years, and say, 30 years. Yeah, well, you could do 2 30-year cycles in your lifetime. You want to get a couple of them paid off. And if you get enough cash flow going, you're taking that extra cash flow and you're paying off those mortgages. And so they produce more cash flow. And then at the end, you refinance it when the equity gets really big or significant enough. You refinance it, and what do? You buy some more. You go play Monopoly again. And how did you do this? You can't outsave inflation, so don't try. But the asset can outperform. And the reason it does is because it's a leveraged asset. Back to that $100,000 savings account versus $500,000. You use leverage to get a higher return on your invested capital. And that's the name of the game. And if you don't want to refinance, you just want to sell the property and get out of it, well, you can do what's called a 1031 exchange. Again, another topic for another class. But
we actually have a show on that. Go look for our 1031 show.
There you go. So you exchange out of this property and you delay the tax that you pay. You defer the tax that you pay to a later date. So you get to scoop your capital up and you get to use it on a better, higher quality investment. That's the miracle of real estate investments. And I'll tell you, I have so many real estate stories I could tell you. I've helped literally dozens of clients become millionaires. The guy that cuts my hair is a multimillionaire. And because he listened to me for many, many years, I said, we need to buy this one. We need to buy that one. We got to take this cash out of that one. You got too much equity in that property. You got dead equity in that property. It's worth $500,000 now and you only owe $100,000. Let's pull $200,000 out and buy another property. And he listened to me. And I think he owns like 4 properties free and clear right now. And so he doesn't need to work. He's got like a hobby job. He goes and cuts hair because, he doesn't want to be at home all the time. And so he's not retirement age yet, but he started at a young age. And isn't that nice to be in a situation where I don't have to go to work? I go to work because I want to and I enjoy it. I'll jump into rent versus buy. I think it's always important for our listeners to think about this. If you're a renter, you're probably paying $3,000, $3,500 a month. But my question to you is, have you ever examined how much tax savings you're not getting as a result of renting? You have a nice house, it's comfortable, it's close to your kid's school. But if you take a look at how much that tax savings is you're giving away, you're paying more tax to the federal and state government than you need to because you don't have the tax shelter of real estate investment. I would just challenge you to take a look at the math on, if I make a mortgage payment and I deduct my tax savings, is that equal to or is that less than my rent plus the tax savings I'm not getting? And I would bet you in most cases it's going to be at least a break even. So why would you want to make your landlord rich if you could own? So then the objection is, well, I don't have the down payment. Well, we talked about that. Go find it. There's somewhere there. Parents are always helping their kids get their first home. My parents helped me get my first home. I help my kids get their first homes. That's just a way of life. And those were in much easier real estate markets. When I started in this business, I lived in a little tract in Yorba Linda called the Expo Tract. And I don't know, the homes were selling $60,000 or something like that. So I was telling my father-in-law, hey, Art, you got to get into these rentals. You got $60,000. Oh, those are not going anywhere. Those are never going up. So they went up to like the mid 80s. Hey, Art, you gotta check out these investments. You really should buy a couple, and he wasn't rich, but he was, middle income. And no, those aren't going anywhere. So they got to be 120,000. Art, you got to check out these, they're cash flowing, make a down payment. These babies are going to cash flow for you. It's going to help your retirement. Nah, they're never going anywhere. Now those homes today, you want to speculate on how much they're worth? You probably know.
Well, over $1 million, right?
1.1, 1.2, yeah. $1.3 million. Now,
if I have it
at
listed,
60,000, Art thought they're never going anywhere. I had a partner that invited me to get into a limited partnership, and we bought a beach house, in this foggy, dreary place in Oceanside, and it was kind of like near the Marine base, and it had rocks on the beach, and it just wasn't what Malibu. And so, hey, it's a beach, I like to surf. Let's go, let's for, I get to go down 4 weeks a year. Maybe I'll throw in 1,300, 15, I don't know, it's a real cheap investment, $1,300. Then I had to make monthly payments on it, right? But it was well worth it because it was a fun escape and getaway, little mini vacation for the weekend. And we had, 1 week every quarter. Well, over the years, the partners wanted to get out. So I buy a little, buy a partner out cheap. And bottom line, when we sold that property, my $1,300 turned into $135,000. And I had pride of ownership. I had use. I thoroughly enjoyed many, many years, raised my kids on the beach. And what happened was the city came along and dredged everything, got rid of all the rocks and put all this beautiful sand in there. And the development came and, it wasn't a marine base anymore. And Oceanside's a flourishing town now and in a beautiful, beautiful community. And we watched all that grow during the time that we were there and enjoyed all the restaurants and all the cheeseburger places down there.
You were talking before about rent versus buying. I'm reminded of a great, great friend of mine, one of my best friends. I talked to him for a good 20 years. And I don't typically talk people into buying or selling. It's funny. My nieces and nephews ask me, so what do? You talk people into selling or buying? I go, well, no. I never talk them into buying or selling. If they choose to, then I can help them. But he being a friend of mine, and obviously I was trying to, what I thought was be good advice, which would be buy. Anyway, at the time, I remember him, he did end up buying. He, the mortgage was high at the time. Now that mortgage that he got, which was high at the time, is around $1,500 less than what his rent would be if he was paying rent for that. So that's something that oftentimes is missed. I think people will look at this high payment and they'll think, oh my goodness, forever. But rents are going up and they've been going up. And that's another thing that this owning helps, of course, is control your rent. I mean, you don't, he is so happy that he bought, not to mention the $500,000 of equity that he has at least.
Yeah, it's the miracle of leverage through investments. Probably the best story I have is a personal story where I was a young man and I had a partner that wanted to build an office building in Yorba Linda. And so we created a limited partnership. And I was a general partner. So we were the ones that were the boss, and we brought in a bunch of investors. So I was a limited partner and a general partner both. I invested a little bit of money. I didn't have any money when I first started. And so, my mom and dad's home was free and clear. They paid it off. They trusted me, and they knew that I was going to be earnest and honest. I said, I'd like to borrow some money against your house, Mom and Dad. And they said, that's okay. We trust you. Go ahead. No problem. So I borrowed $25,000 against their home. And I got into this real estate investment that went up and up and up. And after a few years, our partnership was maturing and I needed to buy partners out. And so through creative financing, we found a way for me to buy all the partners out and own the building myself. The city comes along and wants to improve and widen the road and build shopping centers, and improve the city. And so there's my real estate investment in the way. They kept widening the road. They through threatened of eminent domain, they take part of the road and our lot gets smaller and smaller. Well, they finally said, we really need to take that building out of there and build you a new building. And so through threat of eminent domain, they didn't use eminent domain, but we talked about it. We were able to build a new office facility. The miracle of this whole thing is now we have a 10,000 square foot headquarters building on one of the premier intersections in all of Orange County, with 150,000 car trips going through there every day and lots of people seeing our facility and our businesses that are housed inside of this building. I never dreamed when I was doing this investment, many years ago, that that's what would end up happening. But of course, over a period of time, the property gets paid off. So here's an investment that's worth multi-millions of dollars and produces lots of income. And I started it without my own money, OPM. Other people's money. Now, of course, I paid the mortgage off on my parents' home as I promised that I would, but I used their equity to get to this great investment. And so that's what you have to do in this market, in any market really. Just take the blinders off and look around and see, who do you know? Your rich Uncle Darryl, your rich Uncle Walt, and I'm always up for a real estate investment. Somebody's got a good deal. And there's a whole industry that's been formed like this. And these guys that do these seminars, you pay to go sit in their seminar, and then they say, look, you go find the property for us, and we're going to buy it, and we're going to give you a piece of the action. So they got all these people out there making lowball offers on houses, and some of them actually work out.
I'm reminded, I'll come across oftentimes folks who inherit houses or houses that are kind of somewhat dilapidated. And I talk to them about the benefits of fixing it up somewhat in order to make that money. Well, I tell them, we can fix this up and you can make yourself a lot of money. And they get a little nervous. And I said, well, you've seen those flipper shows, right? Oh yeah, of course, everyone's seen the flipper shows. And I tell them, you know what the hardest part of flipping a house is? By far, the hardest part is finding the house. You've got the house. Let's put some investment into this. I'm not talking about costing you $20,000 to paint it and carpet and flooring and this. And I go through the house and tell them what they do to make more money. I'm talking about that's an investment. You would lose money if you didn't do it.
And one of the beauties of using your services, you have like a warehouse full of stuff, don't you? Furniture and appointments that you actually allow them to borrow and you put into their house. A whole warehouse full of that stuff.
Yeah, no, that's for staging. Well, we can talk about, I think, did we do a staging show? In any event, yeah, I have a whole warehouse full of staging. That's primarily for our staging because whenever we sell a house, of course, we want to stage it because it's going to cause it to sell for
Not
for a
many
better
real
price.
estate agents have services to offer like that. That's really, really unusual.
Yeah, it's definitely a win-win. Well, that's some really, really good information. Other people's money. I like that. Other people's money.
You just have to start asking, and you ask, and you'll find someone that wants to be an investor with you. And then it's a matter of just getting a structure and an agreement, a simple agreement that says how this is all going to end up, in 5 years or 10 years. And if you don't ask, the answer is always no. Remember that.
Well, the old Michael Jordan.
I got to tell you, you're an amazing interviewer because you have so much knowledge of your own to offer in this business. I feel like I should be interviewing you because you're doing it. You're out there on the firing line every day, putting these transactions together. So you see it and you're getting your fingers burned and you're seeing the bombs going off left and right every day. So, congratulations for your success. So you're doing an amazing thing with this program to offer services to your clients and those that could be potential clients, and give us a like and be sure that you share this with your friends because this is something everybody wants to know about.
Signing off, everybody. Thank you for watching another episode of the Jones Zone. Join us next time, and please subscribe to that channel and share it to any friends that you know and love. So, thank you. Thanks, Walt.